Hi guys, JT here, and today I'm bringing you some information on the Humble Bundle Indie Fears Bundle of October 2025. To help you answer the question, should you buy it? By using the links in the description below, you'll gain access to this bundle and support the channel in the process. Before we begin, I'd like to thank you, the viewers who are watching my silly videos. I hope they're helpful. Most importantly, knowing that you're watching it means the world. Anyway, let's get into this. At number 1 we have Mouthwashing, a narrative horror game about letting your worst moments define you. You play as Captain Curly, a long-haul freighter pilot who deliberately crashes his ship, the Tulpar, into an asteroid. What follows is a grotesque, claustrophobic story of survival, guilt, and decay aboard a doomed vessel sealed in an eternal artificial sunset. You switch between Curly's perspective before the crash and his first mate Jimmy's after, piecing together how the crew's lives fell apart under a suffocating corporate system. What makes Mouthwashing remarkable is not its gameplay. It is fairly simple, with a few frustrating stealth and puzzle segments, but its atmosphere and storytelling. The Tulpar feels tangible and lived in. Its cluttered halls filled with personal traces of a crew slowly losing their humanity. Every poster, screen, and half-eaten meal paints a picture of people reduced to parts in a machine that no longer needs them. As you uncover what happened, the horror doesn't come from monsters or ghosts, but from human exhaustion and exploitation. The game's writing captures the sickly tension perfectly, with Wrong Organ's direction turning workplace drudgery into cosmic despair. Even when mechanics stumble, the emotional impact never fades. Mouthwashing is brutal, beautiful, and unforgettable. A 3-hour descent into industrial rot and human regret. You'll walk away feeling filthy, shaken, and strangely grateful you played it. For fans of Alien and Signalis, this is an indie horror you should not skip. At number 2 we have Buckshot Roulette, a short, brutal, and darkly hilarious horror card game where you gamble with a shotgun instead of a deck of cards. You face off against a grinning dealer in a grimy underground club, taking turns pulling the trigger on a random mix of live and blank shells. Every click or bang changes the tension. It is pure Russian roulette, reimagined through a twisted tactical lens that's as nerve-wracking as it is addictive. At first, you just pray your next shell is green instead of red, but as the rounds progress, the game explodes into a deadly poker match. You earn items, a beer to eject a shell, a cigarette to regain a life, or a magnifying glass to peek at what's next. Every turn becomes a gamble of probability and psychology, where reading your opponent is as important as a shotgun's chamber order. You'll curse your luck 1 second, then cheer as a perfectly timed item flips the odds back in your favor. Once you win, the double or nothing mode kicks in, pushing you to risk everything for higher stakes and new toys, from adrenaline shots to burner phones that reveal future shells. The grimy VHS filter aesthetic and pulsing soundtrack make every round feel like a fever dream. Inscription by way of a dive bar. Buckshot Roulette is quick, cruel, and endlessly replayable. You'll keep coming back for one more pull of the trigger, and one more glorious click. At number 3 we have Arctic Eggs, a surreal cooking game about survival, futility, and, well, eggs. You wake up stripped of everything but a frying pan, stranded atop icy skyscrapers in the bleak dystopian world. Your only purpose is to feed the strange citizens that wander the frostbitten platforms, each craving something different, from eggs and fish to cigarettes and cockroaches. Cook well enough and you might earn an audience with the Saint of Six Stomachs, the only one who can grant you escape. The core mechanics sound simple, fry and flip food using precise mouse movements, but Arctic Eggs transforms this into a tense, physical act of desperation. You don't have a spatula, so you're left to flick your wrist just right, catching the egg before it splatters. Soon you'll juggle multiple items at once, beer bottles, ice cubes, slabs of meat, each with rules and risks that twist the rhythm of cooking into absurd chaos. The game's cryptic world building seeps through small details, bizarre dialogue, offbeat humor, and eerie glimpses of a frozen city ruled by hunger and apathy. Beneath its absurdity, though, lies something quietly profound. You start realizing that these eggs are not just food, they're meaning, routine, survival. Arctic Eggs is not flawless. Technical hiccups and occasional frustration keep it from total brilliance, but its strange mix of cooking sim, physics puzzle, and existential comedy makes it unforgettable. You'll finish it, wondering why frying an egg ever felt this spiritual. And number 4 we have Who's Lila? A surreal Lynchian psychological horror game where you don't choose words, you twist your face to speak. You play as Will, an emotionless high school loner suspected in the disappearance of Tanya Kennedy. Instead of dialogue options, you manipulate Will's face by pulling his mouth, brows, and eyes into expressions that a neural network interprets. Every smirk or frown changes how others see you, friendly, frightening, or suspicious, and every emotion could lead to a new branch of the story. Set against a grainy 1-bit world of schools, alleys, and burnt-out warehouses, Who's Lila feels like staring into a dream that doesn't want to end. The sound design, warped synths, droning hums, and eerie silence wraps every scene in a haze of dread. And just when you think you've figured out what's real, the game breaks the fourth wall with ARG-style puzzles that spill into the actual internet. Fake social media pages, hidden files, even free DLC that expands the mystery. There are 15 endings to uncover, each more unsettling than the last, though chasing them all means replaying scenes with slightly different facial reactions. The repetition can wear you down, and the cryptic puzzles often demand a walkthrough. But even then, Who's Lila keeps pulling you deeper, daring you to find meaning in the madness. It is part point and click, part performance art, a disturbing, brilliant experiment in empathy and identity that you won't soon forget. And number 5 we have Threshold, a short but haunting indie game that places you in the middle of a moral experiment disguised as a minimalist PS1-style nightmare. This game blends oppressive atmosphere, eerie world building, and uncomfortable choices to explore what happens when your sense of duty and morality collide. You begin buried and reborn, given only 2 letters to name yourself, an unsettling touch that immediately distances you from your character. Soon you're assigned to a lonely train station where your only job is to keep a mysterious train moving by blowing a whistle. You don't know what's on the train, or why it must never stop, but the growing clues suggest something deeply wrong with your work. The lo-fi visuals and muted palette enhance the bleak monotony of your station, while the constant hum of the train and the piercing alarm of your duties create a suffocating soundscape. Even breathing is a struggle. You must use oxygen canisters to survive, biting into them as your on-screen mouth grows bloodier with every use, a grotesque symbol of exhaustion and self-destruction. Threshold's brevity, around 19 minutes, only sharpens its impact. With multiple endings, cryptic clues, and disturbing symbolism, it leaves you questioning not just the story, but your own choices. Bleak, philosophical, and unforgettable, Threshold is less a game and more a moral hallucination, one that lingers long after you stop playing. And number 6 we have Order 13, a first-person psychological horror game from Cybernetic Walrus that throws you into a grim warehouse where your job is to pack orders, avoid a monstrous creature, and keep your cat happy. It sounds simple until you realize the boxes you're filling include severed limbs and decapitated heads. What makes this horror experience unique isn't just the gore or tension, but how much you end up caring about your furry companion. Everything you do, every sprint, every hiding spot is to keep that cat safe. Each day, you're tasked with meeting an order quota. Complete it and you'll earn cash to upgrade your tools or spoil your cat. Fail, and you risk termination, or worse, death. The creature patrolling the warehouse is relentless, forcing you to crouch, hide, and pray your stamina holds. The cat's happiness meter acts as a soft timer, constantly pushing you to balance safety and efficiency. It is a clever twist that raises the stakes beyond survival. The sound design mostly works well, with eerie whispers and unsettling noises heightening the fear, though the monstrous footsteps can be misleading, sometimes ruining your sense of direction. The environments grow increasingly disorienting as you progress, which keeps tension high despite the repetitive task loop. It'll take you about 4 hours to finish, and while the shop system could use more depth, Order 13 nails its creepy atmosphere and emotional hook. It is a short, chilling experience that proves you'll do anything, even face nightmarish horrors, for your cat. And number 7 we have No Skin, a surreal horror roguelike that blends pixel art with real photographs to create an atmosphere that's both nostalgic and nightmarish. You wake in a crumbling house, haunted by the mysterious no-skin man, and your only goal is to survive long enough to uncover who or what he truly is. Every run forces you to balance resources, manage health, and make percentage-based decisions that can decide your fate in seconds. It is part horror, part math puzzle, a turn-based descent into dread where you're always one mistake away from ruin. Every encounter costs something, whether it is blood, items, or sanity, and over time, you realize the house itself feels alive, feeding your failures. The visual style is mesmerizing. Grimy photo backdrops mixed with beautifully drawn pixel characters, and the soundtrack hums of droning unease. The writing walks a thin line between tortured poetry and cryptic philosophy, hiding crucial clues within the madness. As you dig deeper, you start questioning what is real, what's metaphor, and what the skin really represents. There's a strange beauty in how the game refuses to explain itself. Its repetition becomes hypnotic, its puzzles feel like rituals, and every small revelation hits like a bruise. You might crave more build variety, and some runs can feel samey, but that's part of its bleak charm. No Skin is ugly, brilliant, and unforgettable. A fever dream about loss, identity, and what's left beneath the surface when everything else is stripped away. At number 8 we have Kiosk, a first-person horror cooking sim where you work the night shift as a lonely roadside food stand, serving hungry strangers while something, or someone, watches from the dark. It sounds simple enough. Take orders, cook hot dogs, refill ingredients. But as the lights flicker and the power cuts out again, you start realize the kiosk is not the only thing alive at night. You'll juggle an expanding list of recipes using chaotic, intentionally clumsy physics. Slicing lettuce sends bits flying, sausage bounce across the floor, and ketchup splatters like blood. It is hilarious and stressful in equal measure. Cooking Mama by way of Silent Hill. Managing your stock and multitasking between the counter and storeroom feels oddly satisfying, even as jump scares and unsettling silence remind you you're alone. Maybe. Customers are unnervingly calm, appearing wordlessly to order food as stories of a parkside murder spread. The combination of a quiet dread, absurd physics, and simple but addictive cooking creates an uneasy rhythm. You laugh 1 second, then freeze the next when the lights flicker or the air goes still. Despite some occasional physics glitches and mute NPCs, Kiosk's hour-and-a-half runtime nails the balance between comedy and horror. It's creepy without overdoing it, and its replayable endless modes keeps you coming back for one more doomed shift. Equal parts silly and sinister, Kiosk turns late-night fast food work into a chaotic, grease-slick nightmare, and somehow, you'll still crave seconds. At number 9 we have Adios, a first-person narrative game about the quietest kind of goodbye, one you know is coming, but can't quite face. You play as a Kansas pig farmer who has spent years disposing of bodies for the mob. One morning, you tell the hitman sent to drop off another body that you're done. The rest of the day and your life unravels from there. Rather than fast-paced gameplay, Adios offers an emotional, reflecting experience built entirely on conversation. You and the hitman spend the day tending animals, fixing things, and sharing meals, all while circling the truth that one of you won't see tomorrow. Every simple task feels heavier because you know what's coming. The dialogue is intimate, natural, and devastating, carried by remarkable performances by DC Douglas and Rick Zeef, whose chemistry gives these quiet exchanges heartbreaking weight. What makes Adios powerful is how it uses interactivity to draw you in. Even small dialogue choices, or the ability to wander through the farmer's world, make the inevitable feel deeply personal. It's a meditation on regret, dignity, and the choices that define you. Yes, there are some janky animations, minor glitches, and a few odd textures, but none of that dulls the emotional hit. In barely an hour, Adios delivers more humanity than most games manage in 20. It's sorrowful, sincere, and unforgettable. A eulogy you play instead of hear. At number 10 we have the Boba Teashop, a cozy horror game that lures you in with pastel colors, soft music, and cheerful customers, before quietly breaking your mind. You play as Risa, a 30-something who's left her corporate job to open her dream boba shop. At first, it's all smiles, mixing milk tea, sealing cups, and handing them off to polite customers who tip you for your effort. But as the days go by, the atmosphere curdles. Lights flicker, voices whisper, and suddenly you're not so sure if the mess behind the counter is from a customer or something else. Gameplay is deceptively simple. Take orders, restock ingredients, and keep your shop running. It is part cooking simulator, part chilla's art, wrapped in nostalgic VHS filters that make every shadow look haunted. The real horror is not just in the jump scares, although they are solid. It is the creeping realization that Risa's dream might be consuming her sanity. The more you serve, the stranger your customers become, and the more your reflection seems wrong. What works best about the Boba Teashop is its balance of comfort and dread. Making drinks is oddly satisfying, but the cozy rhythm makes every scare hit harder. It is short, around an hour, but perfectly paced, ending before it overstays its welcome. Glitches and rough edges aside, this is a sweetly sinister brew of routine and ruin. You'll smile, you'll scream, and you'll never look at tapioca pearls the same way again. At number 11 we have Daemonologie, a short haunting folk horror story set during the Scottish witch trials of the late 1600s. You play as a witch finder, sent to a remote village to uncover and condemn the witch that supposedly hides among the townsfolk. Over several days, you'll speak to locals, weigh their lies and half-truths, and decide who will hang when the sun rises. It is a chilling role, made worse by how much agency you actually have. This is not a hand-holding experience. Daemonologie offers no quest markers or clear answers. You're left to take notes, follow your instincts, and confront your own sense of morality. Between interrogations, you're shown stop-motion nightmares that twist prophecy into madness, hinting that something greater, or darker, is at play. It's unsettling in the best way, with hand-drawn pixel art and grainy textures that make every scene feel like a forgotten painting dredged from the mud. The sound design and original score deepen the dread, turning whispers and silence into weapons. The horror does not rely on jump scares, but on guilt, on realizing you're complicit in what happens next. It is short, under an hour, but encourages multiple playthroughs to piece together the truth, if there even is one. Sure, it's rough around the edges, a few abrupt endings, some mechanical simplicity, but Daemonologie lingers. It is beautiful, grim, and uncomfortably human. You may finish it quickly, but its questions will hang over you much longer than its witches. At number 12 we have Massacre at the Mirage, a psychological horror game that throws you into an eerie Halloween night, where a mysterious clown lurks in the shadows. You control multiple characters performing mundane tasks, serving popcorn at a movie theater, hosting a radio show, all while something sinister creeps closer. The tension builds as an ice cream truck passes by, signaling that things are about to go horribly wrong. The game masterfully blends everyday activities with an ever-present sense of dread. Jump scares are perfectly timed, making even small movements feel terrifying. The normality of the setting, brightly lit theaters, cozy break rooms, contrast sharply with the horrors unfolding, making each scare hit even harder. You never know when something will change, when the clown will appear, or when silence will be shattered by a sudden, terrifying moment. While the horror is effective, the story follows a predictable slasher movie formula. You'll likely guess what's coming, but the execution is strong enough to keep you engaged. The game's lighting is another issue. Some areas are unnecessarily dark, making navigation frustrating. A few more objective indicators or visual cues would go a long way. Additionally, the voice acting is inconsistent, with some performances adding immersion, while others feel flat. If you enjoy horror that thrives on tension rather than cheap tricks, Massacre at the Mirage delivers. Despite its flaws, this is one spine-chilling experience you will not forget. At number 13 we have Terror at Oakheart, a slasher film-inspired horror experience. Unique in its genre, this game plunges you into the chilling tale of Oakheart, where an ice cream man named Teddy transforms into a mass serial killer under extraterrestrial influence. Navigating Terror at Oakheart is straightforward. Controls are intuitive, though dodging can feel finicky at times. Whether using keyboard or controller, the game performs well, with controllers offering smoother combat interactions. Visually, the pixel art style pays homage to 80s horror, amplifying its atmospheric and gruesome aesthetic. The subdued colors and detailed pixel animations enhance the game's retro vibes, reminiscent of classic slasher films like Friday the 13th. The gameplay unfolds through various chapters, each presenting a new character's perspective, adding depth to the narrative. You'll solve subtle puzzles, gather items, and craft weapons to confront terrifying foes, although combat can occasionally feel repetitive. Despite minor technical hiccups like initial startup errors and menu freezes, which can be resolved by switching to windowed mode, the gameplay itself remains stable. The haunting soundtrack complements the intense atmosphere, featuring eerie melodies and impactful sound effects that heighten the suspense. Despite lacking a checkpoint system for continued play sessions, the engaging storyline and diverse gameplay mechanics make Terror at Oakheart a thrilling experience, akin to participating in an 80s horror flick. Terror at Oakheart delivers an immersive pixel art horror adventure that captivates with its narrative depth and chilling aesthetics. If you relish atmospheric survival horror and enjoy exploring different character perspectives within a cohesive storyline, this game promises a gripping journey through the dark and terrifying world of Oakheart. And that's all for this bundle. This bundle is straight up ridiculous value. You've got Mouthwashing, Buckshot Roulette, Arctic Eggs, Who's Lila, and the Boba Teashop, all indie horror heavyweights for basically $1 each. Even if you're not into horror, there's even weird, stylish, and experimental stuff here to keep you hooked. Yeah, some games are short or janky, but it's half the fun of these bundles, discovering gems you'd never buy solo. For $13, this is an easy win. Add to cart, no hesitation. In any case, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if this video was helpful, feel free to leave a like and subscribe, and maybe consider buying the channel a coffee. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.